You're live. At least that's what it tells me over there. You're live. Good morning, friends. I am still trying to get this whole live stream thing figured out. I think I'm getting better at it. But I think there's something to learn every time. It's been, what's it been? 3 weeks. 3 weeks, yeah. Since the last time we went live. Now, hopefully, this is my message that says we're now live. Ancient City Craftworks is now live. I do this so kind of get an idea whether or not I'm working or not. Oop. Here I am saying join the live stream, and one participant. So that's me, I guess. All right. Good morning, Martin. Good morning. I'm glad it's working. I appreciate that message. This is, I tell you, this whole live stream thing has got me a little bit baffled. Sometimes it works fine, sometimes it doesn't. And I've always considered myself fairly technical. But I'm having I struggle with this a little bit, but part of it is because I'm trying to do this on my own. So, Martin, where are you joining from? And is it Martin or Martin? I have a couple of friends from Mexico that their name is Martin, and they always pronounce it Martin. So, anyway, good to see you here. Like I said, it's been 3 weeks. So 2 weeks ago, I was going to try and do a live stream, and several people at my day job had gotten sick. Marty, okay, from Southern Illinois. Good to see you, Marty. I appreciate you joining in. So 2 weeks ago, I was supposed to do a live stream, and several people at work came to work sick. And on top of that, I was on a business trip, and on my return flight home, the guy that I was sitting next to, in the seat right next to me, he sniffled and snorted the entire way. So when I woke up Saturday morning, my head was full of congestion, and we could have done the live stream, but quite honestly, you would have had to listen to me blow my nose for the entire time, and I didn't think that would be pleasant for anybody. So anyway, I appreciate you coming in. Last weekend was Mother's Day weekend, so I was able to get down and see my mom for a few hours. She lives about 3 hours away from me here, so I was able to go down on Saturday, spend some time with her and my sister, and just had a real good weekend. But today I am back in the shop, and wanted to share, I guess, some of the projects that I'm working on right now, and hear what's going on in your shops as well. What are you guys up to? So the last time we got together, I was actually working on this Shoji lamp, and here's the results of it. So this was designed to be a table lamp that I have a lamp base that goes underneath there that lights up. In fact, I think I got a picture of it here that I can show you. Is that not? That's the one right there. So that's what it looks like lit up. There's a removable base that goes underneath there, kind of a low wattage LED bulb in there. So that project was, scroll back over to the right camera. So this project was a lot of fun. pretty tedious. All of these Shoji panels here are made with half laps, and the panels themselves are made out of cherry covered in rice paper, and the posts are out of oak. It's actually, I think it's oak. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's oak, but this was wood that I had ordered online, and I had ordered figured walnut, and this shows up. Very nice wood. It's a very nice wood, but of course it wasn't what I needed for that particular project. And I actually got this from Woodworker Source, and when I contacted them, they said just just keep the oak or whatever this is. I believe, like I said, I believe it's white oak. They said keep the oak, and they sent me the figured walnut on top of that. So excellent customer service from them, and I'm just real happy that I mean, they're a good company. They really are. So so this was a fun little project. It took me a lot longer than I was expecting, cutting all of the half laps for the panels. And there's a link in the description here to Adrian Preda. Again, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but he does things like this, and he does a really, really good job. And he's kind of the person that inspired all of that. So just real happy to that he's be able to watch those videos. So now the project itself here requires these kind of, I don't know what you call this. Is this a double half lap? So you do a half lap on this side, cut halfway down, then you come in over on this side and do a half lap, and then it's designed to fit in to this cross piece here, which is also joined together by half laps, and fits in just like that. Which this actually turns out to be a pretty, sorry. There's a window that popped up that's covering any chat. So if anybody's chatting with me, I'm not going to be able to see that. Chris Wilson, good morning. See, your name was covered up in the chat by that box. So good to see you. Good to see you, sir. So anyway, this, that turned out to be a nice tight fit. I think that would be really strong. One of the things that I found out is this thing is very susceptible to getting out of square. So if I'm not cutting, so these half laps have to be perfect and nice and smooth here, which actually required me to do some planing to get them down there. But then these half laps need to be perfectly square. So if you get these half laps a little bit out of square, you actually don't realize it until you're, particularly when you're putting the fourth post on. That's when it really becomes evident. But that's that was a fun project. So let's go back to that picture again. So you can see a couple of things going on here. Normally I don't talk about my flaws with anybody else, but since we're all friends here, you can see ended up with a few gaps up there. And this really came from this just being slightly out of square, because I spent a lot of time making sure the panels themselves were square. So I feel good about the panels, but I ended up with a little bit of a gap here, and a little bit of a gap on the other side as well. And honestly, I think this all comes from being just a little bit out of square on these half laps. So, in fact, so this is one of my practice pieces. And I don't know, hang on, let me get back to the other camera so you can see what I'm talking about. So I think the camera's probably just a little bit too far away, but you can see this is one of my practice pieces, one of my earlier ones, and this edge right here is not completely square. This side over here was square, but I got a little bit of out of square there, and you know, once all of these tiny little pieces of being out of square combine with each other, then that throws the whole thing out of square and we end up with gaps. But if I sound like I'm complaining, I apologize for that, because I'm not. This was the first time I had tried this, and really learned a lot, and you know, can actually you know, apply that. So my wife, who is my #1 fan, she thinks it's beautiful, and since we're using it there at the house, I think that's all that really matters. So pretty pleased with that, but again, we got some more work to do to this, and I got a couple of other styles that I'm playing around with. One, this joint right here, before it gets glued up, proved to be a little bit on the weak side. And in fact, on this piece, this corner, this top corner right here, get that out of the way. So this corner right here actually split off on me. There was a slight defect in the wood, which I had not noticed before, and it split right along the grain there, had to be glued back. So I'm thinking that that joint's a little bit weak. If you're using wood that's got any kind of defect, particularly with this oak, which is incredibly straight grained, it just split right along the grain there. So, but overall, it was a great learning experience. It took me 2 complete weekends to be able to get this done. So what else? What else is going on? I think I've told you guys that I really enjoy wood turning. Actually, I enjoy wood turning probably a little bit more than the hand tool woodwork itself. I've actually been doing the wood turning a few more years, and this is a piece. This is a twig pot. Again, when I told my wife it was a twig pot, she thought I was making that up. She said, all this is a cute little vase. And I said, no, it's called a twig pot. And the reason it's called a twig pot is the hole at the top is very small, and you're supposed to put one piece of dried grass or a twig in there. It's a very low stated type decoration, and so she's using that in the house as well, but she just really, she laughed at me. She thought it was hilarious that I called it a twig pot, And but that's the official name, is a twig pot. Anyway, all it is a little base, but this is spalted magnolia. Spalted magnolia, which came down in the hurricane back over the summer. It's actually Sweet Bay. I think it's Sweet Bay magnolia. Is what the tree, which is native here to this part of Florida. Very, very common tree in the southeastern United States. It's not the variety of magnolia that grows to be, 60 feet tall with a 30-foot span or anything like that. This one stays a little bit smaller, but it's still very, very interesting type wood. So I love this spalting that's in here. And there's a couple of defects you can see, but I think those are just character elements. So, and this was very punky wood. There was air, especially where the spalting is going on. There's a lot of tear out there when I'm going through with my chisels. Just very, very soft. Other areas of the wood are solid, good and hard. But around the spalting areas, it was particularly soft and punky. And all I did was use CA glue. I flooded it with CA glue, and that stiffened it up, made it turn very nicely, and then finished it off with CA glue. Okay, so up here at the top, even though this feels incredibly smooth, you can see it's a little bit rough there on the end grain. I do wish I had noticed that before I took it off the lathe, and could have cleaned that up a little bit more, but that's anyway. Twig pot, and the wife enjoys that. She got a good laugh out of. All right, yeah, thanks, Chris. I think this is beautiful, beautiful. I'm gonna step out here in a second. So the other thing, shoot, let's go. So the other thing that I'm working on then is from the same branch that I did this. I am working on one of the Sloyd projects, which is carving a pen tray. And I've done small in the round type carvings before, but this is the first time I've really tried to do something like this. And I use that spalted magnolia for that as well. But let's see if when I was planing it, you got these beautiful, hang on, you got these beautiful curls and shavings, and you can see the spalting through there. So my wife wants me to take some of this stuff home so she can use it. I haven't told her that spalting is caused by fungus, so hopefully she's not on the call. So anyway, it's just a response to the fungus, but it's beautiful. So, so that's what I'm working on as a Sloyd project. So same type wood, the spalted magnolia. This has a light coat of wax on there to help bring out some of the color. The challenge I have with this is I've said on some of the videos before that don't go out and buy a tool just for one project. And I don't have any decent gouges that would work for this type project. I don't have a bent gouge, I don't have a spoon gouge, anything like that, and I don't see me doing a whole bunch of these, other than getting them prepared for the Sloyd projects. I really don't see this being, you know, a real direction for me in terms of woodworking. So, you know, kind of leery about going out there and buying tools. But I do have a couple of tools that I picked up. And I just picked them up at, oh, I have another one. I have a number 7 bit gouge. And I was actually stropping that earlier, so I think I laid it down somewhere. So anyway, I did pick up a couple of these, I don't know, how do you say file, P-F-E-I-L, gouges. So I've got a couple of these. I was at an estate sale, and the guy, you know, I had a $20 bill, and I said, what can I get for $20? And he loaded up a whole bunch of stuff in a box and included 2 of these gouges. So this is the straight gouge. I also have a bent gouge, and you know, I think I can make these work. It's just going to take longer because they're a lot smaller than than I would typically like to use. But again, I'm not going to go out and buy a gouge just to do this. Now, I've told you guys that you know, someday, you know, after I retire, and I call it once I finally grow up, and my retirement days, I guess, are when I finally grow up, that I'm going to hopefully have some type of program where I can get kids involved in hand tool woodworking, get them away from the devices as much, let them explore their creativity. And you know, what I've found is that when you give the kids an alternative, a lot of times they will, I mean, really go after this stuff and really enjoy it and participate in it. I mean, I've had kids that I've just handed them an egg beater drill and a piece of junk wood and a piece of, you know, a small drill bit, and they entertain themselves for ages just drilling holes in junk wood. You know, sawing off scraps, driving nails. Yeah, I mean, not really building stuff, but just using their hands. The kids have really responded to things like that. So that's kind of my thinking, is to be able to do some kind of after school program or weekend program or something like that for kids that's going to get them involved in that. You know, and of course, you know, the thinking always comes up, hey, you know, you're not a great woodworker. And I'm not. I don't pretend to be a great woodworker. I enjoy it. But I enjoy working with kids and teaching kids and things like that. So what's the whole point of all that? Sorry, kind of rambling a little bit. If that comes to fruition over the next couple of years, I can see me investing in a set of gouges at that point that they're going to be used on a more frequent basis. But for now, I'm going to follow my own advice and use what I have. And even though it's going to take longer, I think it's going to work just fine. Just fine. Now, this piece of magnolia actually started off as a branch, about this big around. I just Took it over to the chopping block, split it in half, and you can see the way the grain patterns are running, that the pith would have been just right about there, just, you know, about maybe a 1/4 inch. The main thing I wanted to do was be able to plane the pith away. But now, as a project, I think this is good practice for the carving. So I got to finish hollowing the inside, and then I've got to shape the outside here. So I think this is a fun little project, and this was designed to be a pencil tray, pen or pencil tray. That's what the Sloyd. This is actually one of the exercises in the Sloyd system of woodworking, is carving a pencil tray, and they give dimensions and things like that. But this is when I cut this piece of wood, I cut it too short, and so in order for it to be a true pencil tray, it needs to be about 9 inches long, and the interior needs to be 8 inches, because that's the standard size of a number 2 pencil. Well, the interior of this is, once I get it fully carved, is going to max out at 6 inches. So I'm going to be a couple of inches short there. The width is fine. Total width is just under 3 inches. And that's really governed by the size of the branch. Can't do anything about that. But the interior is 2 1/4. So 2 1/4 is going to be fine for the width. The length is not long enough. So maybe we can call this a paper clip holder or tray organizer. It's not going to really work as a pencil. So that kind of then highlights the fact that in some of my other videos, I've said, listen, you need to grab a book. So this is a Dollar Tree or Dollar General book, one of the dollar stores that I bought it from, and it's no longer $1. I think I paid $1.25 for something like this. And really highlight it then the fact that before I grab a piece of wood, you need to plan it out a little bit. So and that's actually one of the highlights about Sloyd, is that I shouldn't say one of the highlights. What is the term? So one of the principles of Sloyd, or one of the methods, that's a more accurate term. But one of the methods of Sloyd, as taught by Otto Saloman and his team, is that you should actually make some kind of drawing before you get started. And the idea of having these kids do a drawing isn't necessarily to teach them drawing. This is not about teaching them how to draw, even though that's a skill that they should be developing. But the idea is that you need to be able to take a concept or an idea from a piece of paper and translate that into your own work. So, and this is something I'd really like to know what everybody else thinks about this, because as I read this from Otto Saloman, this really makes a lot of sense to me. And in the times where I actually make the effort to draw things out, the results are better. So one of the things I should have done is realize that I needed a tray that was going to be 9 inches long total, 8 inches in the hollow, and it would have dawned on me that a 6-inch piece of wood wasn't going to be good enough. Okay, so as I've now drawn it out in my book, and I know you can't see it that far away, but I've drawn it out what I should look like, work with, and marked on here. I need to start with a piece that's 10 inches long. I'm going to have a 3/8 inch lip all the way around the edge. Get down to the appropriate size depth and things like that. So as I'm thinking about these kids that hope to someday get into Sloyd, I'm really thinking that they need to be provided with a book, just a notepad, and like I said, this was around $1. It doesn't have to be anything expensive, but give them the opportunity to actually draw these things out before they get started. And when I watch other people that are doing Sloyd and people that appear to be very successful at their Sloyd, program, and if you're not familiar with those people, there's a couple of out there. There's the Sloyd Experience out of Colorado, I think. They're probably the most advanced in this. And then there's St. Maud's out of Wisconsin. And St. Maud's is what I hope to be someday. It's an area where people in the community can come in and use the tools, use the woodworking, participate in classes, things like that. So it's not only a woodworking shop, it's kind of a community center. And they have a really nice Sloyd program where they're working with different schools and actually making it part of the school curriculum and things like that. But as I watch their curriculum or their efforts in doing this, I always see the kids working off of predefined drawings, and that's certainly that's not what Otto Saloman intended. And I can see the benefit of that. I really can, because I've made drawings myself. I've made picture tutorials that would help the kids, or actually the picture tutorials are aimed at parents who want their kids to help their kids to do that. It's not really a picture tutorial for the child itself. So it's for to get the kids involved and to guide the parents in helping the kids. So I see the value of that. But I'm wondering if by doing that, we lose a little bit of the creativity that Sloyd is supposed to help generate. I mean, one of the purposes of Sloyd is it's not to teach kids how to do woodworking, because you can do Sloyd with anything. Woodworking is my chosen medium, but you can do Sloyd with any handcraft. So it could be clay, it could be paper, it could be metalwork. So the whole idea is to get the kids involved in doing something with their hands, making useful objects with their hands. And to do that, it's to spur creativity, spur problem solving, kind of instill a sense of design aesthetics and order. And so there's all these things that go along with Sloyd. So I'm wondering if by giving the kids these predefined templates, that we somehow stifle their creativity. Okay, So the original Sloyd method, or the original Sloyd program written by Otto Saloman and his workers, is that you would show the child a finished model. Okay? You don't give them written instructions or anything like that. You show them a model, and you tell the child that it is their job to reproduce that item, possibly with their own spin on it. And I mean, Otto Salomon was very clear about this, that they did not have to build the model exactly the way the Sloyd teacher did. Okay? But you had to be intentional about it. You had to create a design first, and then you executed that design. And as long as your project followed your design, to the best of your ability, that then the project was a success, even if it varied from the teacher's model. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Would it be better to give the child detailed instructions on how to make a project, which would allow them to create the project rather quickly and very successfully? And once they have created a project, a successful project that kind of builds confidence, and it builds the ability for them to move on. So they are learning skills and things like that. So is it a case of that? Is it better to give them detailed instructions that allows them to learn the skills, or is it better to give them a slightly vague idea of what the project should look like, introduce the skills that they need to be able to execute that project, and then let them do their own thing? Okay. So I'm leaning towards letting them do their own thing. Is that we could give them the opportunity to explore their creativity a little bit better. More of a guided learning rather than detailed instructions. So that's kind of where I'm thinking. That's kind of where my head is at, is to give them the ability to modify the project, within reason. That we give them projects like this because we want them to learn certain skills that they need to complete their woodworking. But again, remember, the goal is not to create good woodworkers. So Chris is for guided learning. I'm really leaning. The more I talk about this, the more I think that it's better just to help them learn woodworking on their own and not directly teach them. So now, having said all this, I'm still a little bit leery about it, because these people are very successful in their Sloyd programs, and I see the outputs from the kids and the member of communities, and I say a lot about kids, talking about Sloyd for kids, but Sloyd can be for adults as well. I personally been, as I'm going through the Sloyd program myself, going through the different skills, going through the different projects, I find that I'm learning a lot, and I'm 62 years old, so Sloyd can benefit us old people as well as the little kids. So I think Um, so I look at these people and I see how successful they are and how well their programs are doing, and that they're getting a lot of community involvement. They're getting a lot of kids in and things like that. So, I got to give them props. I got to at least acknowledge the fact that they are doing a program that the kids are enjoying. Um, but I still have to wonder, are we somehow short circuiting or interrupting the kids' ability to learn? So I'm thinking, as I'm doing this, as I'm going through this, um, I'm really thinking that it should be more about um, giving the kids a direction to head in and letting the kids figure out how to get there with guidance, with help, but figuring out how, let the kids really figure out how to get there on their own. Okay, so, guys, none of this stuff was on the agenda today. Um, and I appreciate you indulging me and letting me talk about this and giving me some feedback. So none of this stuff was on the agenda. I was actually planning on working on the next iteration of Shoji, which is I was going to start by taking some of these pieces, squaring off the ends, and start working on my next version of Shoji, which is why I called it Sloyd and Shoji. So, sorry, I guess I got talking about this, and we're 43 minutes into the live stream, and I'm still talking about Sloyd. So, not a whole lot of Shoji going on there. So, I apologize for that. If you came here to Yep, I went off the rails for sure. I went off the rails for sure. So anyway, I'm still. This is going to be for later today. Then, so I'm going to just park this and talk about maybe do some Shoji stuff in a separate video, something like that. But the next iteration of this, by the way, is going to be a variation of the castle joint. And the castle joint, I'm sure you guys probably know exactly what the castle joint is, probably better than I do, but just in case, the castle joint is where instead of joining them here in the middle, you're actually doing a series of half laps, and basically everything comes in like this. All right? Which means I've got to mortise out or cut slots here, like I'm doing a half lap joint. So I got to cut a slot this way and a slot this way. Okay, and then in here I'll have to do a kind of a dado more than anything else. I'm gonna have to cut a groove in here on both sides to make the middle part the width of the groove at the end of this, and then I'm going to have to half lap this into this, so it all comes out to be similar to this right here, except you won't have this knob sticking up out of the top. So that's actually today's project, and that's what I was hoping to show you today, and get some feedback from you guys on what I was doing well and what I was not doing well. But there you have it. Okay, so again, I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you chiming in there, letting me know what you think. And just talking through this really helped solidify in my mind that even though there is value to giving the kids detailed instructions, okay, and that does teach the kids how to follow instructions and things like that. I think the greater value is giving them the skill, giving them a direction to head in, and then letting them see what they can come up with. I tell you, the most fun that I think kids have ever had in my workshop, and this is a story I've told before, so I know some of you may have heard this, but I think this really speaks to the way kids learn. Friend of mine brought his three kids over to the shop one Christmas, and they wanted to make something for their mother as a Christmas present for the mother. So I actually came up with a project which I thought the mother would love. I came up with instructions on how to do that project, and we made the project, and it turned out pretty good. The kids had a lot of fun. But after that, I just turned them loose. We still had some time left over. The kids, they didn't have to be anywhere. So I just said, well, what, let me back up. The way it actually happened is we finished the project, and the oldest child saw my scrap bin and said, "Hey, can I use some of this wood to make something?" And I thought, hey, that's yeah, sure, go ahead, don't care. And then for the next hour, the three kids dug through my scrap bin, my offcuts, and came up with some of the wackiest pieces that you can ever imagine. I mean, they were silly, but the kids just had a blast doing that, and they used their imagination. They did the problem solving, and all I did was help them. At that point, all I did was help them with their technique at times. Like in one case, the oldest couldn't figure out how to hold two pieces together as he joined them with nails, and I helped with that, gave some ideas, but I didn't touch their project at all, and just let them do their thing. And when I saw the family post later, the ones that got the most comments by their family members, particularly their mother, is the the wacky things that they made themselves. Now, she oohed and awed over their formal project, and I think she really liked that. But she really loved the kids going out there doing their own thing. So that really kind of helped get this thing going in my mind, is just give the kids an opportunity to work in a safe environment, under a watchful eye, make sure they're not stabbing themselves with a sharp chisel, but giving them the opportunity to explore in a guided fashion. So, okay, there you have it. Decisions made. And I appreciate you guys doing that. So, all right, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up now. Again, I do appreciate everybody that has come in, dropped a chat message down there. Feel free to weigh in at any time. on what's going on here, what your ideas are. You know, I love it when people, you know, give me or challenge me in a certain way, not without being disrespectful or anything like that, but when people, you know, tell me, hey, there's a better way of doing this, that's a good thing for me, and I appreciate that very much. All right, so all right. Well, I wish everybody have. I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. Hope you're getting some time in your own shops to get out there and get things done, and really appreciate that. Uh, how about making a Shoji lamp in the shape of one of the platonic solids? Um, hmm, I don't know what that means. Platonic solids. I am going to have to look that up. But Dances with Aardvarks. Great idea. I mean, I can't say yes or no because I don't know exactly what that means. I'm going to have to look that up. Uh, but I promise you, as soon as we are done here, I will be checking that out and seeing if I can incorporate that. And if that is the case, then it's going to be a video. So I love it. I love it. I'm going to learn something new today. And any day that I learn something new is a good day for me. So, Dances with Aardvarks. Cool name, by the way. I love that. Dances with Aardvarks. I'm assuming that's a play on Dancing with Wolves. Uh, but who knows? That Dances with Aardvarks. That is a cool name. I love that. So, all right, friends. Thank you very much for stopping in. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for the suggestion. And I got some research to do, so I'm excited now. Okay, friends, take care. God bless.